Welcome back, everyone. Good afternoon. Today is December 8th. Welcome to the City of Toronto Committee of Adjustment, Scarborough District. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, which is an online digital platform, and it is streamed onto the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, which is an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, or a tablet app. All participants will automatically be muted. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. For land acknowledgement, before we begin, we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to a property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on any application, please submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and an email address because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or the OLT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will now go through the hearing procedure. I will call each item in the order that is listed on the agenda. When an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant will proceed with their presentation if it's required. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters that are outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals of the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if the application is substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to receive the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposition to the application will be invited to speak. We certainly want to hear your comments and concerns, but repeating the same comments again and again will not advance your cause. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the agent or the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and then the application will be taken into committee for a discussion. This session is the afternoon session, which was scheduled to begin at 1:30 p.m. We are dealing with items 21 to item 30. So items 21 to 30 are being dealt with in the afternoon session. Members of the committee or staff, are there any declarations of interest for any items in this time slot? Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, I do have a conflict of interest, and this is for item number 21, and the agent is an an acquaintance of mine. for both the vetting and the hearing, if the application stands. For the deliberation, I will step away and I will request Member Macaulay to chair the item. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any requests for deferral for items 21 to 30?
Through the chair, there is one request for the afternoon session. It is for item 23, 15 Shandon Avenue. It's a deferral request by the applicant to revise their application to address community planning concerns. Deferral sine die.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I please have the agent with us, please? Mr. Leo Mastrianda, thank you. Leo?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leo. Leo, so we have a request for deferral. Is that, can you please confirm that?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so this is item 23. Address is 15 Shandon Avenue. There's a request for deferral by the applicant to revise the application to address community planning's concerns that have been raised by staff, and the recommendation is to defer it sine die. Members of the committee, any concerns or questions for this deferral? I see none. Can I please have a motion on the request for deferral for item 23? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for deferral of item number 23, sine die.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder, please?
So, through the chair, perhaps defer sine die to address concern of community planning.
Oh, so that was not caught in the motion?
No, it was
Sine
just
die?
defer sine die. I think you should include a reason for the deferral
Oh, I see.
in the
I see.
motion.
Yeah. So,
Madam Chair, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was actually coming to you, Member Said. Go ahead.
Okay, so I will revise my motion. I move the motion for deferral of item number 23, sine die, so that applicant revise the application to address community planning concerns.
Okay, seconder was Member McKay. Please go ahead.
Yes, I second that, the motion to defer, Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been deferred sine die. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any other requests for deferral for these items?
Through the chair, there are no more.
Thank you very much. All right. So I will now start with the vetting of the agenda, starting from item 21. And as I indicated, I have a conflict. So Member Macaulay, could you please chair this for me? This is item 21.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For item number 21, 84 Westbourne Avenue. Is the applicant available?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have no other speakers on this. Do you wish to make a presentation?
Yes, Madam Chair. There are 5 variances on this application. We believe these are very minor. Community planning staff has reviewed the plans and they have no concerns. We have 4 support ladders. Out of 3 are immediate, left, right, and across the property. And we also acknowledge the urban forestry comments for the comment number 3 that we have to make a payment for the city to plant a new tree.
Thank you. Any discussion by committee members? Can I have a motion, please? Member Sood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the applicant mentioned, there are 5 variances for this application, which are quite minor and appropriate. Nadeem have understanding of urban forestry condition. I move the motion for approval of item number 21, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Member Roberts for second. Don.
Taylor.
Taylor. Sorry.
Robert Don.
Not doing well.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay, can we second that? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you, that member carries. Can we have the chairman back, please?
Thank you. That sounded a little bit of a fun there, but I missed it. Okay, so moving along, our next item on the agenda is this is item 22, 104 Van Brew Avenue. And there are no listed speakers. I would request if I can have the architect, Imran Khan. Imran, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. So Imran, we have
Yeah,
your,
I'm here.
yeah, so we have your application before us, minor variance application. Members of the committee, any questions for Imran? I see none. All right, Imran, any comment before we take the matter into committee?
No, it's very minor and simple variance. So I think judges also knows, and I don't have any comments on that. It's very simple. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, there are no comments from the architect. If there are no questions or concerns with this application, can I please have a motion? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a straightforward application with two variances pertaining to lot coverage and building setback. These variances are minor appropriate. I move the motion for approval of item number 22, and there are no conditions for this approval.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder, please? Member McKay, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I second that motion to approve. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried
Thank
and
you
the
very much.
application has been approved and there are no conditions. This is item 22. Okay, moving to item number 24. Item 24 is 2191 Warden Avenue. And can we please have Jonathan Basowski? There is no registered speaker on this. Thank you. Jonathan, you're with us?
Morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, good afternoon. And
I was looking at you getting colder throughout the day, so I got confused as the jacket goes on and all of that.
in the council chamber, there's a bit of a freezer right now. Yes, the day is certainly going well, but cold. Okay, so we have your application and we have three, this is the thing with being on YouTube, everybody can see you. So we have your application and there are three variances before us. And do you want to make no, sorry, this is vetting. So I'm going to ask the committee if committee has any questions for you at this time. Committee members? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the applicant can address this, or maybe staff needs to weigh in, but variance number 1, I'm having trouble interpreting that. Firstly, it says the proposed use is not permitted in the highway commercial zone. And then in the next sentence, it says the proposed use is permitted in the highway commercial zone. So I presume if that second sentence were true, we would need a variance.
That is a very good question, and maybe we can get clarification first from the applicant. Jonathan, can you please clarify that?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, if you look at the different portions of the request there, it's actually a site-specific that came in after the fact that did not allow these to be permissed there. What I would say is we did go through the formal PAC process with planning. So I had a formal meeting with planning before submitting the committee of the C of A minor variance application to address this exact issue being the use itself. So it really pertains to a site specific that was put in after. As you can see, it's under Schedule B.
So the proposed use, the vehicle dealership and showroom is not permitted in the HC zone.
Correct. Yes.
And then, in addition to the existing permitted use, the proposed use vehicle is permitted. So the request is to, the proposed use.
allow.
Okay, to allow that.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
got it. Member Taylor, so I think it's certainly confusing, but if you read the first part of the second sentence, so in addition to whatever exists, existing permitted uses, not exist, existing permitted uses, the proposed use is permitted. So that's what the ask is for, to allow, in addition to the existing permitted uses, to allow the proposed use of vehicle dealership showroom. It's worded a little,
Correct.
staff can
I think
clarify.
it-
Yeah, staff can
I think
clarify.
it should have said is requested or something.
Yeah. Colin, please go ahead.
It's still not clear. You know what? I'm gonna let it go. I don't like the wording, but I'll let it go.
No, that's totally fine. I think it's important to clarify. So Colin would like to provide some clarification. Colin, please go ahead.
Actually, you know what, I don't think I have anything further to add except that I believe this was, hold on, let me just check something here. Can you please scroll up to the first page of the,
You're looking for a waiver?
there it is.
It's not, yeah.
Okay. So my understanding, and perhaps the applicant could confirm this, is that at one point this was a permitted use. However, there was a study that was done, and then I believe there is an existing use right now, and it's an addition, and I believe that use at one time may have been permitted, and then there was an area study, an avenue study, which placed an H on the property to limit it only to specific uses. But I can confirm, I would like to confirm that with the applicant, because the applicant has a little bit more history on this.
For sure. Jonathan?
Exactly what the Secretary Treasurer said. Like I said, there was a site essentially specific that came back in, because if you're familiar with the area, that section of Shepherd and Warden is littered with car dealerships everywhere. Now, to address that, what we've done is, if you look at the elevations itself, it's very sensitive, where it doesn't look like an all glass showroom. It maintains the integrity of the building. And like I said, I had a packed meeting with planning in advance of submitting this to ensure that we were okay with the use being there.
Through the chair, there, if you look at the zoning review, which is up on the screen right there,
Yeah.
that kind of clarifies that there was an H put on the property. I believe this was probably
Related to
this H was probably put on. I'm thinking probably about 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay, but at the end of the day, regardless of how the use is not permitted, and what's being requested is to add this use. Okay,
That's correct. That's correct.
thank you very much for that. Member Taylor, does that help you?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, Secretary Treasurer.
Okay, perfect. On that note, any further comments? Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's a question to Jonathan, just for sake of further clarity to the variance which is pertaining to the GFA. The GFA include the basement, and it's 65% unless the basement uses for purpose of storage of washroom only. So could you confirm, Jonathan, what is the use of the basement? Because if it is used as a storage or a washroom, then this particular variance is also going to be eliminated.
The basement is again being used as a portion of a showroom, and that's it. But there is no access to it, so it's more just storage than anything else.
So if you can look at drawing number A2, the basement floor plan, it shows the showroom space there. So to your question, Member Said, it's not just storage, it's showroom.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right. Thanks a lot. Okay, so can I have a motion now? Remember, we're reading the agenda now. Can I please have a motion? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm satisfied the requested variances meet the four tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Member Said, please go ahead.
I second the motion for approval.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, we now go to item number 25. Item number 25 is 5 Macduff Crescent. But I note that there are some speakers registered, so we will hold down item number 25 and come back to it. Next one is item number 26, and this is 1221 Markham Road. Although there are no registered speakers, but I would like to hold down this item because we have received a staff report recommending refusal of the application. So I will hold down this item and come back to it. So item 26, 1221 Markham Road is being held. Item 27, 2075 Kennedy Road. And I don't see any registered speakers, so can I have Courtney Huron Monk, please?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Courtney, thank you. So Courtney, we have your application before us. Just want to ask the committee members, do you have any questions at this time? And there's a bit of a glitch. Okay, sorry, there was a bit of a technical interruption. We're back. Can you all hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we're dealing with item 27, and we were hoping to speak with Courtney. Courtney?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Again, my name is Courtney Herring-Monk. I'm an associate with Bose Fields, Inc., who is the planning consultant for the owner KS 2075 Kennedy Road, Inc. We should have another registered speaker. It's Ingrid Beausoleil, and she's with the ownership group. She's really just here in case there's any owner-specific questions, but I'll continue on. So the consent application-
Courtney, before you do that, because I'm vetting this session, so we typically don't require presentations unless the committee asks for, and then if that's the case, then we hold down the item and come back. So would you like to make a presentation, or would you like to proceed to see if members have any questions?
I was just going to give a bit of background on the application, if that's okay.
Okay, then I will have to hold
You
it
don't
down.
have to.
I'll have to hold it down because, go ahead. Go ahead.
If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Yeah. The reason is because I'm just trying to clean the agenda and deal with items that have no discussion or questions. That's why. But Member Macaulay has her hand up. Member Macaulay, go ahead.
On this, so can you hear me? Okay. To be clear, I have a couple of questions on this application, so I'd appreciate asking the applicant some questions. I believe we should hold it.
Okay, all right.
To allow that discussion to take place.
Perfect. So Courtney, as you heard, there are some questions of the committee members, so you will certainly get an opportunity to present your presentation. So we will hold this down. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 28, and I see there's a list of registered speakers. Item 28 is 96 Bobmar Road. So I will hold down this item and come back to it. Item 29, again, there's a list of speakers registered, so we will hold down this item. And item 30, 10 Panare Street, also there is a registered speaker on this, so we're holding down this item as well. So that brings us to the end of the agenda for vetting. Now let me just recap the items that were held. Item 25, item 26, item 27, item 28, item 29, and item 30. Did I get them right? Okay, all right, so we've held 6 items for this session. So let's start with item 25 now. So for item 25, for 5 Macduff Crescent, can I please have Jesse Raju Kenneth? Jesse,
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm here. My
good
name is Jace,
afternoon.
and I'm yeah,
Jesse, we have Faisal
yeah.
as well, so I want to check with Faisal as well. Faisal, are you with us?
No, Faisal is not here at this point of time. I will be presenting the for the project.
Okay, all right, Jesse. So my question, as I always ask, do you want to present or do you want to go right into the questions?
No, I will present.
Okay, all right. So there you have 5 minutes and your time starts now. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you so much for allowing me, and I would like to address the concern from the Farid Ahmad that is there any impact due to the construction's soil removal, and is there will be any noise and or dust? So I would like to address that first. So the first one is like we have a rear yard setback of 7.96 meters. So according to the required setback by the city, and we provided the required setback as well. So hence the soil removal will not have any impact to the mentioned land as well. And the construction will continue to 8 months, and we will install the fence filters to keep the neighborhood dust free, and also we will provide safety measures to reduce the noise as well. So moving to the requested variances by the zoning bylaw, the first is the variance is the lot coverage. The lot coverage is 33 percentage is allowed, and we are proposing 35.87 percentage, which is only 13.44 square meters. And we have recently approved project that is 90 Minerva Avenue, which is similar to our lot coverage, which is they have 36.10 percentage. And there are a couple of other projects. Our nearby neighborhood is like one Oak Ridge, which having the same zoning regulations, having have the lot coverage which is more than the allowed one. The second one is regarding the floor space index, that we are proposing 0.62 times the lot area. And I saw that we have an objection in which they have compared our project with a couple of other projects as well. So if you see the 5 Macduff Crescent, 57 Macduff Crescent, and 59 Macduff Crescent, they all exceeded more than the allowed one, which is 0.72, 0.71, and 0.72 as well. So ours is only 0.62. So I am requesting the Madam Chair to consider this one, and the approved project also is have the similar variance, which is 0.64. So I would request the Madam Chair to consider the situation. And regarding the height for the project, that we submitted the revised the corrected notice, public notice, in which we show, yeah, this one, which show that we are going to reduce the height uh, of 10 meters to 9.5 meters. uh, so that will so the item number 3 will be reduced, and item number 4 will also get reduced to 7.26 meter. I would like to pull out the one project, one Oak Ridge Drive, that the main wall height is more than 7 meters. So I would highly request the Madam Chair to consider these variances that is minor in nature. And I saw that in the objection letter that the mainly focusing on the height height of the building, and the flat roof ratio as well. There is no zoning, no any zoning examiner mentioned the issue with the sloped roof ratio. That means that we are fulfilling the required 50% slope roof ratio. However, we are going to take more flat roof portion, and to conclude with that, there are new constructions in the neighborhood having FSI which is comparatively far higher than the allowed FSI. So we have followed all the setback requirements for this project, and I would request Madam Chair that the characteristics of the new development in the neighborhood resemble the new development in and around the neighborhood as well. So I'm requesting the committee to consider the proposal to approve the projects, approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Completed well within 5 minutes, so that's great. So again, for the benefit of everyone, in the supplementary agenda that we received today, we did have the revised public notice, which Jesse was referring to. There's no change to variance number 1. I want to note that the request for additional lot coverage is, almost 13 square meters more than what's permitted. Variance number 2, the floor space index remains unchanged. Variance number 3, the revision has been proposed to the height of the building, so it is, what's being requested is 9.5, so you're looking at 1.5 feet more than what's permitted. And then the maximum permitted height for the exterior main walls, 7 meters for not less than 60%, and what they're proposing is at 7.26 for the 4 side main walls. So a little higher than, or probably like less than a foot higher than what's permitted. Okay, so I'm going to now come to the committee members. Any questions for Jesse? I see none. All right. So let's move on and we speak with the first speaker, Farid Ahmed. Farid, are you with us? Oh, sorry. I was looking at the presentation. Okay, so Farid has not signed in. All right. Farid Ahmed is not there. Number 2, Janet May. Janet, you're with us? Hello.
Through the chair, Janet May is here connected via phone and has been unmuted, so she may be having audio issues.
Okay, so I'll give a few seconds to Janet May. Janet, we see you are connected via phone and you are unmuted as well. I'll give a few seconds. Hello, Janet? Okay, I guess we have to move on. We move on to our next speaker, Peter Thachik. Thank you. Peter, you with us?
Yes, I am. And first off, an apology from Janet. Janet had to leave to pick up her granddaughter. It's unfortunate with the just the agenda taking a little longer today. But anyway, I'm here to speak. And my name is Peter Thachik, and I am here on behalf as a member of the Cliffside Scarborough Village Southwest Community Association. The CSVSWRA is an incorporated not-for-profit association working to preserve the unique nature of our neighborhoods. We do not support this application to replace the dwelling located at 5 McDuff with a significantly larger house. The RA is not opposed to property owners improving their properties if these changes fit in with the character of our established neighborhoods. We have a presentation. I would ask that you pull it up, please, and go to slide 1.
Just give us a second.
Absolutely.
There you go. That's the one you want?
Thank you. That's the one. It's slide one, yes. As you can see, the immediate vicinity of 5 McDuff is a low-rise neighborhood consisting of modest-sized, somewhat affordable homes. If we could just move to the second slide, unless anybody has questions.
Please go ahead. Second slide. Thank you.
That's number 3. If we can go to the one just before it, I believe. There we are. Okay, thank you. This application, in our opinion, fails to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. And now I would ask that you go to slide 3. Okay, thank you. According to OP, policy 3.1-2.3, new development will be masked, M-A-S-S-E, and its exterior facade will be designed to fit harmoniously into its existing and/or planned context, and will limit its impact on neighboring streets, parks, open spaces, and properties by A, massing new buildings to frame adjacent streets and open spaces in a way that respects the existing and/or planned street proportion. Respect. Incorporating exterior, this is B, incorporating exterior design elements, their form, scale, proportion, pattern, and materials, and their sustainable design to influence the character, scale, and appearance of the development. As you can see from the slide, the exterior facade of the new home will not harmoniously fit into the existing context. It's much larger and higher than the neighboring homes and features a massive portico, not characteristic of this neighborhood. The official plan, chapter 4, section 4.1, policy 4.15, B states, development in established neighborhoods will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of each geographic neighborhood, including in particular prevailing heights, massing, scale, density, and dwelling type of nearby residential properties. And D, prevailing building types. The geographic neighborhood for the purpose of this policy will be delineated by considering the context within the neighborhood in proximity to a proposed development, including zoning, prevailing dwelling type and scale, lot size, and configuration. The house which the applicant proposes to demolish is typical of the neighborhood. The replacement house does not, in our opinion, respect nor reinforce existing physical character. I understand that applying the 4 tests involves determining the difference between the impact of a requested variance versus as of right. However, when the difference is minimal, the question that begs to be asked is why the applicant cannot simply comply. In other words, requiring the applicant to satisfy the burden of proof. In our opinion, this application does not maintain the general intent and purpose of these sections of the official plan, which relate to neighborhoods, and therefore fails this test. We urge the members of the Committee of Adjustment to refuse this application. I would ask that you keep this slide up for the next speaker. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Peter at this time? Okay, all right. Let's move to our next speaker, Tom Casanda. All right, thank you, staff.
Hi, hello, it's Tom Casanda. I'm president of the Cliffcrest Scarborough Village Residents Association. I found the odd shape of this roof a bit of a puzzle, and aspects of the drawings and variances difficult to reconcile. Could we please bring up the applicant's roof plans, sheet 4? Here we will see a flat roof around the outside, a portion of the sloped roof, and the rectangle in the center represents another portion of flat roof. It's slide sheet 4. There it is. You just missed it. One more back. There we go. And the rectangle in the middle represents another portion of the flat roof, which is shown as 5.11 meters wide. Can we go and see the elevation sheet 9, please? Here we will see that the flat portion of the roof is in fact much wider. Here we go. we'll see the flat roof is much wider. In fact, the dimensions have been left off, but the measurement has been scaled to 6.3 meters wide. This means that the roof plan does not match the front elevation. A building examiner would have noticed this because this would affect the determination of flat roof requirements, but the applicant filed a zoning waiver instead. This submitted roof plan would, however, possibly match the design of a building with a lower roof height. Lo and behold, 2 days ago, we were notified that the roof height has been dropped due to community feedback, just like at 18 McCowan last month, which was wisely refused. The inclusion of the original roof plan suggests that the elevations were increased in height for submission to the COA so that the increased variances could then later be dropped to create the appearance of compromise. The roof plan for this would be massively different than the one that they've shown. Now, as with 18 McCowan last month, there's no rule against submitting an enlarged set of plans and then reducing the variances to create the appearance of compromise. I expect we will see this again and again, and there's nothing that can be done about this practice, but perhaps in future the roof plans will be presented accurately for fair evaluation. Can we see the building section, sheet 13, please? It's the very last one. You can see here that this is a flat roof home design with a peak dropped on top. The sole purpose of that peak is to distract from the 7.2 maximum height for a flat roof home, as is the intention of the bylaws, which we will show. It isn't difficult for the applicant to drop 0.5 meters off the roof, and dropping another 0.5 to be within the bylaws would actually make the house look a little less odd. There's no need for this height variance other than to make the house look bigger, more valuable, and tower over neighbors, encouraging them to sell so that another one of these can be built. Now, if we could go back to the community presentation, slide 4. Variants are judged against the prevailing character, not the anomalies such as the houses 2 blocks away and around the corner. Here in this area, bylaws allow for homes with twice the FSI size of the existing homes. So yes, this area can be redeveloped. And yet this proposal is nearly 3 times the size of the existing homes. The bottom chart shows the FSI for the street. The red bar shows the proposed FSI is 3 times that of the neighboring homes, and the portion above the orange line is the variance. This shows that 20% FSI increase is clearly not minor. The applicant failed to mention the application 57 was refused by the COA, but unfortunately the city did not show up to defend it when it was appealed at TLAB. So the fact that those homes exist is irrelevant. Can we go to slide, okay, so go to slide 5. One of the challenges of the applicant playing hide and seek with their variances is that we actually don't know what the roof design is or the implication of the requested variances. Is it a peaked roof or is it a flat roof? But this drawing is what they submitted, and they have reduced the height a little more, but as Peter noticed, it doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood. If we could skip to slide 7, the green area, which is slide 7, there we go. The green area, which is a massive home, shows the general intent of what the city bylaws allow. The red shows they are not maintained. I'm wrapping up shortly. The bottom line is that there is no
Tom, sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, but your time's up, so you may want to close your remarks, please.
I am closing up. The bottom line is that there's no need to impose on the neighborhood a home significantly larger than the generous bylaws allowed. The city has not figured out how to stop developers from converting affordable neighborhoods into millionaire mansions with 11-foot ceilings. And the reality is allowing even larger homes than are allowed already is not going to, it simply contributes to the unaffordable housing crisis. And that is not desirable. In closing, just note that professed compromise is not one of the 4 tests.
Tom, thank you very much. Sir, I must,
truthful.
Tom, I have to interject here. I need to stop here. Okay, thank you for your comment. I think we heard your very detailed discussion on the application. affordability and housing, that's certainly important subject, but not that we're discussing right now. So I'm just going to now go back to the committee members. If I can have the screen back, please, Katrine. All right, so committee members, any questions for the speakers? Okay, I see none. Thank you very much. Can we have Jesse back, please? Thank
Yes,
you.
I'm here, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Jesse. Jesse, you heard the concerns raised. Could you please provide a response?
Yes, so we are going to take, previously I addressed the issue with the flat roof, and it is not a variance. Like we 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 addressed this is not an issue that raised by any of the zoning examiners or the committee, the application examiners. So there is no issue with the zoning issue with the flat roof. But I mentioned that we gonna take more flat roof, more area from the flat, so that it looks sloped roof. And the muzzing is just because of, I believe, the roof, and it gonna be reduced, the height gonna be reduced to 9.5. And there are houses that you can just see. I can clearly mention that 214 Ranjal Crescent. It's like huge house, huge building. So I don't know why it is like saying that it is comparing with the existing constructions, old constructions over there. So I would highly request to look the characteristic of the project, our project, the 5 MacDuff, because it is it is following all the requirements. It's just the issue with the height that we agreed to. Even if we are willing to eliminate the item number 3, we are willing to eliminate down to 9 meters. It's only the issue now with the FSI and the lot coverage and the 7.52 main wall height. So this is common in these neighborhoods. So I would request Madam Chair to look into this detail, into this project in detail. Thank you so much for allowing me. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate your response. Members of the committee, any questions for Jesse at this time? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Jesse, I was listening to what you were saying, and I believe your last statement is that you are going to comply with the zoning bylaw for a 9-meter roof height.
No, 9.5.
And therefore,
Yes.
no,
Yeah,
she said 9.
Yeah, if it is required, if it is required, I will drop down into 9 meters.
Okay, so I didn't catch that, so thank you for catching that, Member Macaulay. So you're further revising your application to now eliminate, basically?
Yes.
Okay, eliminate variance number 3. Would that affect variance number 4?
It won't affect, but
Okay.
we are reducing into 7.26 meters.
Okay, so variance number 3 is been proposed to be eliminated. So the applicant will comply with the height requirement. Variance number 4 has been modified to 7.26. Okay, thank you. Thank you for catching that, Member Macaulay. Okay, please carry on. Member Macaulay, you have anything more? Oh, okay, all right. Thank you. Anybody else with any comment? Okay, I see none. All right, thank you, Jesse, for confirming that. Now let's take the matter into committee. Committee members, any comment? The application has been substantially revised. The variance number 3 has been eliminated, so no longer required for the height. And the variance number 4 is now at 7.26. So we're only looking at a few inches up for the main walls. Height complies. In my opinion, FSI, the difference, if I do the math, it's approximately 17 square meters. You're looking at approximately 200 square feet more. And the same for the lot coverage. It is 12, 13 square meters more, approximately 150 square feet more on the ground floor. Okay? My opinion, these are minor in nature, and these are appropriate for the development of the lands. Any comment? Can I have the screen back, please, Katrine? Thank you. Okay, if there are no Member McKay, are you saying something? Oh, okay. All right, so if there are no further comments, can I please have a motion? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with your observations. As you all know, my preoccupation, if that's the right word, is to consider the differential between what is permitted as of right and what is proposed. I think, Madam Chair, you summarized the very, very small differences, the 3 variances being requested here. The differences between the proposed and the as of right. So I've got no hesitation whatsoever to move approval of variances 1, 2, and 4 without conditions.
Thank you very much, Member Taylor. May I have a seconder, please? Member McKay.
Madam Chair, I'd second that motion to approve those variances 1, 2, and 4.
Thank you.
There are no condition.
Thank you very much. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay, member Said opposes it, but the motion is carried and the application has been approved, and there are no conditions. Thank you.
Madam Chair. Thank you,
Okay,
committee members.
thank you very much. Okay, so now we are going to deal with item number 26. And item number 26 is for 1221 Markham Road. And we have the legal representative for the owner, Peter Smith.
Yes, thanks very much.
Yeah.
We pre-filed a presentation, so if that could be put up, that would be much appreciated. And I'll do the introduction. I'm actually not a legal representative.
Oh.
I'm a planner, a land use planner and a partner with Bousfields, and we're acting on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah, that's what I
So,
thought, but I had on my notes legal rep, so okay, I will make that amendment. You are a planner representing, from Bousfields, representing this application.
Correct, yeah. And I believe that our client's municipal solicitor may also have registered. But let me go through my presentation. And I want to be as tight as I possibly can. If we can go to the next slide. There was a vision established back 12 years or so ago through the Markham Ellesmere Revitalization Study to redevelop these lands for residential uses, to encourage private investment, to introduce new public roads, new local retail, and new housing. And that vision is being continued with the current proposal. I'm going to just deviate from my script here because there are comments in front of you. I'm going to go back to slide 3 ultimately, but deviate from the script because I wanted to address head-on the community planning staff report, which is recommending refusal. I'll start by saying we were very, very disappointed to have received that, and I'll explain why. We've been working with community planning staff on this application now for more than 2 years. We met with the community planner at the outset and asked whether there would be support if we were to frame the application the way that it was ultimately framed, to proceed by way of site plan approval and minor variance. And that was confirmed, and we filed the application in July of 2020, so that's now 18 months ago. And we have worked, I think, exceedingly well with staff, and I want to thank staff for working so well with us, to the point where we're essentially settled in terms of all of the details of the application. And so, I mean, clearly, we agree with the original staff direction, which was to proceed by way of minor variance, and we disagree with the recommendation in the staff report to proceed by way of a rezoning. And in my comments that I'll now present to you, I'll try to explain why we believe that the minor variance route is the appropriate route. But there is a really important history here, and we are very, very concerned about this last minute change in position by community planning. So if I can then go through the four tests. So I'm going to start with the next slide. The official plan, the site is designated mixed use areas. It clearly permits the proposed use. Importantly, this is the site and area specific policy on the right-hand slide that came out of the Markham-Ellesmere revitalization study, the intent being to support private and public investment in the renewal of the area. And so that's what this proposal, in fact, does. And then in terms of what happened from there is following that approval of the site and area specific policy in 2009. In 2011, there was a rezoning approved for the site, which allowed for 3 high-rise buildings. What this slide illustrates is that since that approval, there have been a number of approved developments in the immediate vicinity for building heights that were higher than what was approved for this site back in 2011, including 31 stories immediately across the street, 34 up to 34 stories further south along Markham Road. Next. Oh, if you could go to the next slide. So this slide, no, sorry, slide before, if you don't mind, which is the zoning. So this is the zoning that was introduced back in 2011. And you can see part of the reason for the number of the variances in front of you is if you count up all of those performance standards, there are 37 performance standards. And the community planning report explains that this is I think their term was a rather unique zoning framework. There was a reason for that history, but the fundamental thing about the intent of the zoning is that the intent of the zoning was to allow for 3 tall buildings, originally of 25 stories, 20 stories, and 26 stories, and with a specific number of dwelling units and gross floor area. So if we can go to the next slide. This is the current proposal. It includes 3 towers of 30 stories, 21 stories, and 27 stories from west to east. This proposal reflects input that we received over the past 2 years from planning staff, from urban design staff, and in my opinion, results in a better development than what was provided for in the 2011 bylaw. And you can read the planning staff's comments, which note that those variants
Peter,
actually.
Peter,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your 5 minutes are done now. So you may want to start closing.
Okay, so I'll just quickly say, because those were the important things to lay out. This is just the comparison of the building envelopes versus what was approved. What I would ask, and I'm happy to answer questions, is that the committee approve the variances with the condition that was recommended by the city councilor with respect to the section 37 and updating that. If the committee does not see fit to approve the application, we would recommend, or we would request that the application be refused rather than deferred, because after 2 years, we simply need to move forward with this. Thanks very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry to cut you, but time is of essence here. So I think a lot of these things will be flushed out through further discussion. So members of the committee, questions for Peter Smith. Member Macaulay, please go ahead. Member Macaulay, you're muted.
Okay, I'm not. Peter Smith. The planning staff have indicated that this is a fairly complex application. I believe you need something like 28 variances, which starts to expand the question of whether this is a minor variance. But one of the things that looking at what you've got in front of us and the change from the existing zoning bylaw is a different proposal. You are proposing a public street, and I'm not sure how that was to be achieved the last time round. What is the proposal, and how are you proposing to dedicate to the municipality a public road as part of this whole development?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. So there's been no change in terms of the proposal. Public street was provided for in the 2011 zoning bylaw. We are continuing to propose a public street, and because public road dedications are exempt from the Planning Act, it would be secured as a condition of approval going forward through the site plan approval process. The only variance actually has to do with the timing, and the wording of that variance, that's variance 28, was wording that was worked out in consultation with your city legal staff, as well as engineering and construction services. And it was just to move the timing of conveyance to the time of first above grade building permit rather than the first building permit. So that would allow for shoring and excavation to take place prior to dedication of the road. So with the exception of that slight change in timing, which was supported by legal and engineering and construction, the proposal is exactly the same as it was.
Okay, thank you. My second question again is an item of concern as to whether this is truly a minor variance or whether this should be dealt with by the city council as a whole, and that is dealing with your section 37 agreement. Can you explain to me how you're proposing to enter into a section 37 agreement?
Yes, and the counselor's letter actually recommends a mechanism that I think does actually work here. So because there is a section 37 agreement in place, it will be necessary to amend the section 37 agreement in order to increase the value to reflect both current values as well as the increase in density. Our client has indicated that they are certainly willing to do so. And so that would just take a resolution of city council. It doesn't require a rezoning or anything like that. And I've gone through that before on other minor variance applications.
Okay, that's the questions I have, at least initially. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Member McKay, please go ahead.
Peter, just in terms of the existing zoning back in 2011, was that the zoning that was approved through the then OMB?
Yes, it was.
Yes, okay, all right. Fine. That's all I had, thank you.
Any other question? Member McKay, please go ahead.
I'm back, and Member McCauley raised this. Yeah, I'm just having difficulty, Peter, you know, in terms of any sort of change in height or density. We've that section 37 stuff ties back into zoning bylaws as opposed to the minor variance process. You suggested you had an example of a situation where a sort of a section 37 was varied through a minor variance process. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, I did one a number of years ago in North York Center. It was on Avondale and Glenora, approved by way of a minor variance, but there had been a section 37 agreement entered into as part of the site-specific zoning. So it was ultimately necessary to have City Council amend the section 37 agreement in order to facilitate the minor variance, but the approval was done by way of a minor variance.
Okay. Member McKay, any further follow-up?
Sorry,
No.
that's fine, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Any comment? All right, Peter, before I go into committee, any closing remarks?
Just, and I don't want to take advantage of the committee's time, just simply the number of variances reflects the rather unique zoning framework and the number of performance standards. And if the bylaw had been written in a more traditional way, we wouldn't have the numbers that are in front of us. So I would ask you to look at sort of the essence of what's being sought, which in my view is minor, and the intent, rather than simply counting up the number of variances, which is really a reflection of the rather strange nature of the bylaw that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. All right, I take the matter into committee now. Members of the committee? Comments? Questions? Member McKay?
Really, as part of this process, we've got to think about sort of also cumulative variances, and it's unusual to see a minor variance application with us and before us with 28 variances requested. That's a lot. That's my comment.
I concur with you, Member McKay. It's a cumulative effect of all the variances, and I think even if I start to remove few related to Section 37, even the performance standards cumulatively start to change the intent of the zoning here. And I don't think this is an appropriate application for minor variance. So I concur with you as well. And again, Section 37 is another beast on its own. But in just in terms of the performance standards as well, I feel that it's starting to detract from the intent of the zoning bylaw. Member Macaulay.
I too am sort of questioning this as a variance. 28, I did see the existing zoning and the number of performance standards is horrendous. The problem is none of this is yet built. And in our experience, collectively, a development of this size doesn't proceed without some other minor twitches to it. Either they be variances or bylaw amendments or refinements. And if we've got a very complicated and ugly zoning bylaw and the variances that have to be reviewed and then go back to the existing zoning bylaw, or anything that happens in the future, we've got a more complicated mess than what we have at the moment. I'd be inclined to think that what we are wanting to do is we want to simplify the planning process, get it down to what really is being proposed in terms of building height, number of units, public roads, and have the zoning bylaw reflect that, rather than have a zoning bylaw of 20 or 30 numbers and 28 variances to it. It may be a lawyer's dream because they'll be spending 2 years trying to figure it out, but it's a planner's nightmare. So I don't think this application meets the test for being minor. It may meet it's a matter that rightfully the city council should be dealing with in terms of a Section 37 agreement, and that the city staff and a rezoning application going through the proper channels, maybe again, should take place. So my recommendation would be, my proposal is that this application be refused. It is not minor. It doesn't meet it's basically not minor. That's the whole nub of this is it's simply not a minor variance.
Okay, thank you,
Can't
Member
say any
Macaulay.
more about that.
Yeah, thank you, Member Macaulay. Yeah, so I concur with your comments, except that I want to state on record that in terms of the development itself, I think it's a great development. It's, you know, it's great intensification where it needs to be and all that. It meets all those criteria, but I think it's not the right process to get to where the owner or the applicant want to be there. In my opinion, these matters are to be dealt with through City Council at a rezoning level so that this matter could be looked at comprehensively. And it's certainly beyond the purview of this committee, and it's not minor in nature, and it does not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. So on that note, I would request for a motion. Can I have a motion, please? Member Macaulay, go ahead.
I need a two-handed unmute section now. My motion is to refuse the variance application for 1228 Markham Road on the basis that the application is not minor and is beyond the scope of a variance application.
Yeah, I just want to correct you. It's 1221 Markham Road.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to refuse the application at 1221 Markham Road. May I have a seconder, please? Member Taylor.
I second that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been refused. Thank you. All right, we now move to item 27, and item 27 is 2075 Kennedy Road. Courtney. Perfect, thank you.
Hi,
Courtney.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so Courtney, I think you can now make your presentation. Member Macaulay also had some questions, and I think she wanted a brief presentation as well. So please go ahead.
Great, thank you. So again, my name's Courtney Heron-Monk. I'm an associate with Bose Fields, Inc., and we're the planning consultant to the owner, KS 2075 Kennedy Road, Inc. And joining me this afternoon, as I stated earlier, is Ingrid Beausoleil, and she's with the ownership group. So the consent application before you today is really intended to implement an approved mixed-use development and implementing zoning bylaw, which were approved by council on November the 9th. And by way of background, the site is currently developed with a 13-story, thank you so much, a 13-story office building and above ground parking structure, and it includes approximately 2,800 square meters of vacant land around the existing structures in that reverse L shape. The site is designated mixed-use areas under the City of Toronto official plan, and it's subject to site and area specific policy number 7, which envisions the future development of the vacant portions of the site with new residential and employment uses. And as you can see on that slide that was just up, the site's located in an area with a mix of high density residential and mixed use buildings. It's located in the Metrogate community. And from a zoning perspective, so the site is subject to site-specific zoning bylaws, again, recently approved by City Council on November the 9th, to bring the site into the commercial residential zone of bylaw 569/2013, and to facilitate a mixed-use development comprised of 2 mixed-use towers with heights of 31 and 34 stories on the south end of the site, a 36-story residential tower at the north end of the site, a new 1,922 square meter public park at the southeast corner of the property along Village Green Square, and 2 new privately owned, publicly accessible open spaces. So again, the consent application before you today is intended to implement the development that's been endorsed by City Council by establishing the development blocks that will create the separate ownerships for the various components of this council approved plan, and to establish easements that will ensure the functionality of the blocks. The owners also submitted a site plan approval application, which is currently under review. The proposed consent has been reviewed in detail by multiple departments, including city planning, development engineering and construction services, transportation services, parks, urban forestry, and the city's economic development division, none of which have expressed any concerns with the application. We have reviewed the advisory comments from transportation services and the conditions from engineering and construction services and from parks, forestry, and recreation, and we have no objections. In advance of this meeting, we've provided a covering letter which outlines our justification for the proposed consent, along with these visual materials and background materials on the approved zoning bylaws. Given that the consent complies with the criteria under subsection 5124 of the Planning Act, it's my opinion that the application represents good planning and should be approved. And I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Member Macaulay, please go ahead. Member Macaulay, you're on
First of
mute.
all,
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Go ahead. There's a delay.
you just wish I was on mute. That's the problem there.
No, there's always a
Okay,
delay.
let's go back to, it'll be nice when we get back into a building, we can actually see each other and not playing with machines.
Agree.
However, we've learned a lot over the past 2 years. So we're proceeding. Courtney, my concern with this consent application is the details of the consent application. I don't have any concern with the actual use. But I am concerned that you've got a number of items that need to be fulfilled, and that a consent application really only lasts for, or the approval of a consent application with its conditions must be fulfilled within 1 year. And so in looking at that, you said the council approved the zoning bylaw on November 9th, 2021. I believe that was a council resolution to give approval. That was not approval of a zoning bylaw, the bill itself. When will that zoning bylaw bill be considered by council?
Yes, I can clarify, and you're absolutely right. So the owner is working towards executing their Section 37 agreement, and they're targeting to bring the final bills to council in February.
Okay, following on that, this has had a lot of input, I believe, in the past. So when the zoning bylaw is passed in February, if it is, and we hope that it is, are you expecting any referrals?
Any referrals?
Any referrals to what used to be the OMB? Why I'm asking this is, again, we've got a 1 year time period that we're dealing with. We don't have a zoning bylaw in place. We've had a long history. It may be that the community is fully satisfied and there are not any referrals. But if there are referrals, the chances of being able to fulfill the consent application approved in December of 2021 would be next to nil.
I understand. Yes, I understand. I can confirm that nobody actually showed up to the community council meeting, so the statutory public meeting. And we've been working very well with staff, and no, so we don't anticipate any appeals.
Okay, thank you. So your Section 37 agreement, you say you are working with the council right now to fulfill that?
Courtney?
I guess I answered yes. So the owner is getting close to finalizing executing Section 37 agreement.
Okay, and you have a site plan approval application submitted, or are you just on first submission or submission number 10?
It was submitted in August and is under review right now.
Okay, I think
So
Member
we're
Macaulay,
still
these,
with their submission.
yeah, I think you're trying to assess the timelines, and I think Courtney acknowledges, the process and whatever time will be required for those things. So I think if we can sort of come back to the actual application.
Okay, I will come back to the application. Yes, you're correct. I was looking at the timelines. I hate to do anything twice. I really have a problem when I see applicants come in for a
Yes.
consent application and a year later come back for it. And so I try to avoid that situation. And that's why I was looking at, is it feasible? I see the conditions of engineering. I see the conditions of your parkland dedication.
Mhm.
So I think we have the appropriate conditions here. My whole issue is timeline, and will I see you again next 2022 because you weren't able to get all this done within the year? That's where I'm at, and I'm
But Member Macaulay, remember, you have
debating
to,
whether this application it would be considered premature.
but Member
But I
Macaulay, you
will
have
leave it
to,
at that point and let others to speak.
if you allow me for a moment here, I think you've raised good points. I'm not disputing it. But I think if the applicant and the owner fully acknowledge those risks and they want to proceed with these applications, it's our responsibility here to look at the application and review the, again, with, under the mandate that we have. Apply the 3 tests and make a decision on this application, how it's going to be fulfilled, when and who does the conditions and timelines. I think the owner, and we're not talking about someone who has not done it before, we're talking about big consultants here who probably know their timelines and their obligations under those timelines. So I would say that, in my opinion at least, that's my 2 cents, is that that's beyond the purview of our discussion. That's something that the applicants acknowledge, and our job is to make a decision on the application based on what we have before us. Okay, that's my 2 cents. And again, open for comments if anybody else has any comments.
Through the chair, I agree.
Thank you very much, Colin. All right. No further questions or comments at this time. Member McKay, go ahead, please.
Courtney just wanted to bring up the concerns of engineering and development. So there's some issues relating to your municipal services and your water connections, and apparently they only want one connection to each building. In any event, is that something that you could agree to if conditions were added to severance if committee saw fit to grant that today?
Through the chair, I don't anticipate that would be an issue, and I just wanted to also convey that legal staff and the owner together are preparing a consent agreement in parallel with the Section 37 agreement, and both are expected to be executed before the bylaws go forward in February. So I just wanted to add that note.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be a good vehicle to do it in a consent agreement. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in my experience, I mean, all these things can run parallel as well to catch up with the timelines. And I think the timelines are fairly prescriptive, and all consultants and professionals understand those timelines. And if all efforts are put in, those are achievable. Anyways, on that note, I think we've had a good hearing. I will now take the matter into committee. Committee members, questions or comments or deliberation amongst ourselves? Keep in mind, we have the engineering services conditions, we have the urban forestry condition.
So, through the chair, just for clarification, it's parks. Yeah,
Sorry,
parks
It's
conditions.
parks, it's not
Yeah.
urban forestry, okay.
Yes. They're a unit within urban forestry, sorry.
Understood. Okay, perfect. So we have conditions from parks. So, Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I may be wrong, but I don't see an urban forestry.
You're right, Member Taylor. I was wrong. It's not urban forestry. Staff corrected me. It is actually Parks Department or Parks Unit or Division. And their condition is listed, it's the last item on the agenda, or not on the agenda, on this particular item. It's a memo from Staff Parks dated November 16th. And there's a condition of parkland conveyance and parkland dedication. It's at the last page of that memo.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah, the terminology makes a difference. It's not urban forestry, it's parks. There you go. Thank you, Katrine. So it's confirmation from the Director of Community Planning that the zoning bylaw related to this property, ZBA application, are in full force and effect, and that any conditions imposed by any approval authority in respect of the same are secured through one or more agreements under Section 37 or 5319 of the Planning Act, registered on title of the lands. Okay? All right, on that note, if there are no other comments, can I please have a motion? A motion, please. Member Taylor.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm interested in pursuing strictly what's before us, which is the application for consent and those blocks to be created by consent. I'm quite satisfied that this is reasonable and appropriate development, and it's going to be fleshed out in a much more comprehensive site planning process, which is underway in the Section 37 agreement, et cetera, et cetera. Focused on the consents, I don't have any issues whatsoever. And I move approval subject to engineering and construction services conditions, the standard conditions of consent, and the aforementioned parkland condition.
Okay, thank you very much. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion for approval subject to the condition of standard consent conditions, engineering condition, and Parks Department conditions.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay, Member Macaulay opposes the motion, but the motion is carried and the application has been approved, subject to conditions. Thank you. And we are now.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And the screen disappeared.
My apologies, through the chair.
No problem. No problem. Okay. All right. So we are now moving to item 28. Item 28 is not 96 Bobmar Road, and this is a combined application there's a consent application and then two associated minor variance applications. So items 28A, items 28B, items 28C. So can we have Chris Pereira, please? All right, thank you. Chris, are you there?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of committee.
Good afternoon, Chris. All right, and I will just do a quick name call, just so that people who have registered to speak can prepare themselves. Nathan Sahana, Irene Varga Fokard, and P. Maletta. So these are the registered speakers. We'll come to you in a short order. Now, Chris, we have your application. We're looking at it. It's a consent and minor variance application. Would you like to make a presentation or prefer to go directly to questions?
Madam Chair, I think I'd like to provide a bit of an overview for committee members and, any residents that are in attendance.
Okay, all right. So Chris, you have 5 minutes and your time starts now.
Sure, if I could either share screen or if my presentation can be put up, that would be great.
Okay, so your presentation is up.
Perfect, thank you. Again, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chris Barra. I'm the principal of Embar Planning and Design Limited. We are the planning and urban design consultants for the owner. The development application proposes to sever the existing property into two generally evenly sized lots and further proposes two-story detached dwellings on the newly created parcels with the associated variances. The associated variances are outlined in the notice form, so I'm not going to kind of repeat them, and they are available, being coverage, frontage, lot area, and GFA, or permitted floor area. With that being said, can you go to the next slide, please? I want to spend a few minutes discussing kind of some of the context of the area. So the existing area, it's predominantly characterized by one, two-story residential detached dwellings on a variety of lot sizes and orientations. You can go back to the original slide. I will kind of let you know when to move through. Those existing built form fabric contains a lot of similar lot frontages and areas to that of what is being proposed by this application. We have a number of examples along Botmar Road, where the same street where the application is, as well as some of the surrounding streets, Onlands Road, Ridware Crescent, Fishery Road. They already have performance standards that exist and that are equal to or less than in sometimes what we are seeking. So the first example, so this is what's being proposed in front of committee. You can see the two-story detached dwellings. Next slide, please. I wanted to specifically point to a few examples in the area. So this is 69 Botmar, which was approved 11.43 meter lot frontage. Next slide, please. 29 and 31 Botmar Road, which are existing dwellings. Those have a comparable lot frontage of about 12 meters on average. Next slide, please. Staying on Botmar, we've got a one-story bungalow, again about a 12.5 meter frontage. These really are examples of some existing lots that would be very similar to what we're proposing. A lot of those lots already exist on Botmar, and we do believe that the proposal is not out of character. It is compatible with the existing neighborhood. You can go to the next slide, please. I have one more kind of example of a much smaller lot. These lots have frontages of about 9.15 meters. And the lot area is about 280 square meters, which is very similar to what we're proposing. So I think in summary, there are lots and frontages that are smaller than us and larger than us. And I feel like we are finding a happy balance in between those two requirements. Next slide, please. And again, just one more further example. These are our 32 and 34 Ridware Crescent, and these have about a 9-meter lot frontage as well, which is very similar. So I just want to speak about the 4 tests of minor variance, and then leave ourselves open for any questions that committee may have. So as far as the official plan is concerned, we are the opinion that the proposal maintains the intent of the official plan. We propose development which is materially consistent in terms of low-density residential single detached dwellings. It is consistent with prevailing physical character of the geographic neighborhood in both the broader and the immediate context. Where variances have been requested, those are consistent with existing built precedents as well as recent approvals in the immediate area. Where a variance is sought for area, frontage, coverage, or density, we note that variances have been issued in the area for similar dwellings that require similar relief to what has been requested by this application. We believe that the proposed development also maintains the intent of the existing zoning bylaw, which is the RD zone, a residential detached zone. It proposes a development standard that is in keeping with the recent examples in the area, and we work very hard to not require any setback variances or anything like that. So I think that really speaks to the overall design in the attempt for these two dwellings to really fit within the required zoning to the full extent feasible. Obviously, we're splitting the lot in half, so there's going to be certain things that we're not going to be able to meet. But with that
Chris,
being said,
I'm sorry to
yes,
interrupt. You may want to start closing, please.
sure, no problem. So I just want to end by indicating that it is minor in nature. The relief being sought would result in lots and dwellings that provide a sensitive and gradual fit with the existing physical character area. This will reinforce the existing 1- and 2-story physical character. Lastly, I wanted to just note to committee that we have provided 28 letters of support from residents of the neighborhood, 14 of which are residents on Bobmar. These letters were sent to Councillor McKelvey, who basically acknowledged that they do exist.
Okay.
Lastly, I have read comments from Urban Forestry and Development Engineering, and I confirm that we're in agreement with any of the conditions and technical advisory comments that followed. And I also note that community planning had no issue with the proposal, as they did not submit the staff report. With that being said, I am available to answer any questions that committee or anyone may have.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right, members of the committee. Chris has confirmed he has reviewed all comments and has no concerns or questions. Any comment or question that you may have for Chris at this time? I see none. Thank you, Chris. We are going to move and speak with the first registered speaker, and then we'll come back to you for a response. So Nathan Sahana is not there. Okay, so staff has confirmed that Nathan Sahana has not signed in. I'm going to go to the next speaker, Irene Verga.
Hello.
Hello, Irene. We can hear
Yes.
you. There's an echo. Could you please mute all your other devices and only unmute one that you're speaking into?
I'm just speaking on my cell phone. Other item has been muted.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Irene. And you have 5 minutes, and please go ahead.
All right, thank you. All right. I live at 3477 Ellesmere Road for the past 4 decades, and the 96 Bodmore property, the back of it backs onto the east side of my back garden. Obviously, I wish to voice my objection to all 3 applications filed by the owner of 96 Bodmore. The proposed applications and requests for variances to the current zoning bylaws for Highland Creek are excessive and incompatible with the character of the existing community, despite what the former speaker, Chris, said. There may be isolated houses because the community was settled at the beginning of the 19th century, but what he is not compatible with the current frontage of 50 feet. Now, so because of these requests are excessive, they're consequently not desirable for the appropriate infill housing development of Highland Creek. The owner of Bodmar, furthermore, is requesting variances to not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 variances to the current zoning bylaws. None of the variances are minor, as has been stated. They are, in fact, major. To request, for example, that the frontage, which is currently a minimum of 50 feet, will be reduced by division of a 70-foot frontage lot into 2 lots will be only 37.5 feet. That is not major. That is not a minor reduction. It is far from 50 feet. All right. If the Committee of Adjustment were to allow these variations, it would set a precedent that these people that just forget his name, Chris, was saying that wrote letters of support that are Bob Mark. Well, these people that wrote letters of support, I beg to differ that it was people, regular investors, because the two neighboring properties and all along road had been bought up by these investors and developers as soon as older people die or move into nursing homes. So of course they're going to present it. They're just waiting for these variances to pass. And then, all right, and I'm getting carried away here. I'm passionate about it, but I really am. I apologize for that. Now, Highland Creek, my theme is that Highland Creek stands at the crossroads of what the future infill housing development will look like. Rather than repeat all the data, statistics, and lot sizes, which I know Mr. Melita will repeat, and I know that the president of the Highland Creek Community Association, Mr. David Adamson, wrote in, Highland Creek stands at the crossroads. So the theme of my letter that I submitted and this presentation is that whatever decision the Committee of Adjustment will make has to consider the effect this has. The owner of this property is obviously an investor and an absentee landlord. I see the backyard, everything, and he is following the steps that seem to be the current sequence. These investors and developers buy up large properties that have a larger frontage, often over the asking price, outbidding the younger generation that hope to buy first-time home buyers, and they never will be able to. They'll be forced to be renters or move out of Toronto. Now, they have discovered Highland Creek as one of the last areas in the city, in the eastern end, that has these large properties, and they are buying them up. These people, as the news stories say, about 25% of them have multiple properties they own. They buy one, they rent it out. Over here, it's to students attending the University of Toronto Scarborough campus, and they let it run down. And I see this in Bob Mark. This house was in great shape. The owners had renovated it totally, and it had been in the family for generations, even before I moved in 4 decades ago. Now, it's been, so what are they going to do? Waste all the resources? Just tear it down and throw everything out? What a waste of resources and environmental impact. Then what they do is, while they strategize and get their battle plan in order, they're renting it out. You see students coming
Irene,
out of
Irene, I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am, but your time is up, so you may want to just close your remarks, please.
Okay, I will. All right, so they obviously have negative impact on the trees, on the penetration of rainwater into the ground because there's no more porous soil left. The trees are cut down, majestic pines, everything else. They impact the neighborhood, and despite this, Highland Creek is still a vital neighborhood. So I urge the members of the committee to carefully consider all of this impact that they have, because if they would agree to it, it would set a dangerous precedent that all these other people pretending to support it, they are.
I understand. Irene, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I think we got the gist of all your concerns. I also want to acknowledge, we did read your written submission as well, and most of your comments that you talked about today were covered in that memo as well. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Irene.
All right, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. All right, members of the committee, we're going to move on, and the next person on the list is P. Maleta. Okay, so P. Maleta is not signed in. Staff has confirmed. So I will now go back to Chris Pereira. Chris? Okay, thank you. Chris, so you heard the comments from Irene, and could you please respond?
Yes, I can try, Madam Chair. Irene had mentioned a few things. I don't know, there isn't a huge amount that I can directly respond to, but I can, respond and reiterate what I had initially said, which is basically, in our opinion, the variances are indeed minor. Irene may be entitled to her opinion, and that's fine. I'm not going to try to convince her otherwise. But from a planning perspective and a professional planning perspective, we do feel the variances are minor. In terms of precedent, I think she had raised the concern of precedent. What I would say to that is that the precedent has already been set in this neighborhood. Hence why I feel comfortable supporting this application that is now before the committee. So that precedent has already been set at 69 Bobmar and a bunch of other locations. So I do believe that the area does contain a very wide range of lot sizes. And even if you look at the parcel mapping, the parcels have become so fragmented around that Ellesmere area. You've got parcels fronting onto Ellesmere. You've got parcels that have been cut in half that are oriented the other way. So the area is really a mixture of lot sizes and orientations and so on and so forth. And we feel that this application is extremely minor in nature. It's going to assist with, wider objectives of the city in terms of housing and affordability. Try to, on a site-specific basis, meet those very, very high-level provincial requirements upon us. So at this stage, that's what I'm, prepared to submit for the committee's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Members of the committee, any questions for Chris at this time? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Yes. One of the variances that you're dealing with is a coverage variance of 43% versus 40%. Why can't you meet the 40%?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not the architect, so I can't give you, a very detailed or informed answer as to why we cannot achieve that 40%. I don't know if there's an issue with the overall design, or whether reducing it further creates a design that's not feasible. So unfortunately, I can't say whether that can or cannot be accommodated because I haven't not designed the dwelling.
Can I
see that.
Go ahead. Maybe Member Macaulay, something may help you, and maybe and Chris, you may know it at the top of your head. What's the GFA of the proposed house?
GFA of the proposed house.
Oh, 278.16. Okay, all right. So I think I think often the increase in lot coverage is to accommodate a certain size of a house, certain square footage, and looking at it, it's approximately 2,900 to 300 square feet a home, which is kind of what you see in the market late, it's reasonable. So I think that's what's being trying to be achieved here.
Yes, I was going to go to that next item,
Okay.
which is the maximum floor area of 278 meters squared versus 204, which is what the bylaw would allow. So it's what we're looking at here is a variety of lots on that street, a variety of frontages on the street, changes in the area, and we're obviously looking at a question of one or two things. First, if we refuse this application, we will have a lot that is one of the largest on the streets, and presumably that lot would be built with a big house because it's got the frontage, it's got the area, and so it can build even bigger than the 278 meters squared and still meet the zoning bylaw. So that's one of the things to look at. The other thing to look at is if we said, okay, this is a big lot, it's not quite meeting the zoning standards, divide it in half, make two smaller lots, and then you would create houses more in keeping with what is in the area. And that's where I'm going. I'm looking at two smaller lots, so approval to the consent application, but then I look at they're wanting to push both ends, smaller lots and bigger houses. So I'm asking the applicant, what is the rationale for the bigger house? There's obviously no house being built here at the moment. So why can't they meet the zoning bylaw?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Macaulay. So I think the issue there's a number of issues. Proceeding with only one house is not really intensification. That's just basically building one house on one lot. So that's not really hitting the mark in terms of provincial policy and what the ministry is asking about. The other more tangible, if you know the policy hierarchy, the more tangible thing is the market realities. As Madam Chair had mentioned, the houses are very much in line with the market realities, and we're also meeting all the setback requirements. The problem with proceeding with a single house on this large lot, as you've said, is that you're going to end up with a dwelling so large that you'll never be able to recoup the true market value in this part of the city. If we were in Forest Hill or somewhere else, sure, you can build a multi-million-dollar mansion and you can actually sell it. But in this area, it's just simply not feasible to go with a monster home. You're never going to get the price point that it's going to cost you to build it. So in terms of planning sense and in terms of a financial viability, the two smaller homes, they're going to be more affordable, and you're going to have an additional unit, and kind of that is the bigger picture kind of explanation, Madam Chair, from why two smaller lots as opposed to one large lot.
That answers my first question as to why two smaller lots versus one larger lot, and I agree with your thinking on that. My question is, once you've got the two smaller lots, why can't you meet the zoning standards for the size of the house? And I notice on the houses that you're providing, you are meeting the side yard setbacks, but you're not meeting the fire code. If you take a look at those side yards, and you need to see that what they're providing for the windows are fire shutters, because the houses are not sufficiently set back from the lot line to allow for appropriate fire protection. So once you've got the smaller lots, you're now trying to put too big a house on them. And that is what I am struggling with here, and asking you whether you would consider reducing the size of the house, reducing the size of your coverage request, but proceed with the two lots.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not sure why we would need fire shutters if we're meeting the side yard setback. That something seems unusual there. I'm gonna look at the drawings.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on fire, but I can see that, Member Macaulay, there's no request for a side yard setback variance. Right, so what fire requires is not under my purview, at least, or the committee's purview. I would say that there's no request for variance for side yards.
I agree. I think we're just being diverted here. If by a red herring. The issue I have is that he's trying to put too big a house on this lot. And I'm asking him whether he would consider reducing either the coverage or the floor area of the house. So far, he's managed not to answer that question.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure if it's possible process-wise, but is it possible to move on to the next item? Allow me 5-10 minutes to call the architect and understand from him better what the limitations are on any design and whether we can accommodate Member Macaulay's request. Would that be within the realm of possibility?
Okay, sorry, Chris, I had to speak with staff about something. No, so because we're dealing with all the three items together, so unfortunately I will not be able to give you additional 5 minutes because that's why I had initially mentioned in my opening remarks that we will be dealing with these three items together. I think a lot of the discussion on your variances or the applications have come out through the discussion, so I don't see the need to go back. I think Member Macaulay has concerns with the size of the house. We did clarify with her that there are no side yard requirements or anything, but clearly she has issues with the size of the house. She was requesting if you could reduce. I guess it's not a quick answer, so I'm going to leave it at that. Is there anything else you want to say, Chris? Before I go
Thank you,
to,
Madam Chair. Yeah, no, I would,
yeah, go ahead.
the only thing I would add is kind of what you had mentioned already was, I can understand Member Macaulay's comment, but I think the fact that we're meeting all of the setbacks that are required really speaks to the application. And I think that I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree with the notion of there being too much house when we're seeking only a 3% increase in coverage and we're meeting all of the applicable setbacks. So that's really what I would submit to the committee for consideration.
Okay, thank you for your time, Chris. Before I go, I just wanted to check, did everyone had a chance to speak or comment or ask a question? Okay, all right. Member McKay, go ahead, please.
Just a very short one, Madam Chair. Just looking at the public notices and the variances listed, it seems that there are really just 4 variances and not 5. The numbering is a little odd. Number 1 relates to lot frontage, and then you go to the second page and they tell you the proposed frontage. So there doesn't appear to be there's no 2. I think there are just 4 variances
You're right.
before us.
You're very right. I think,
Right.
yeah, you're very right. The numbering was off, so there's only 4 variances. 1, 2, yes. So the first one deals with the lot frontage. The second one deals with the lot area. Third one deals with the lot coverage. And then the fourth one deals with the floor area. So you're right, it's only 4, it's just the numbering is off.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So it's even better, less than 5. 4 variances. Okay, all right, on that note, I will now take the matter into committee, and committee members, go for it. Come on, guys. Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give a comment on that. Chris was right, because this is a big lot, as Member N was also saying, if it is a single lot, right? And they cannot build a very huge house, which is neither economical, neither a market reality. But at the same time, the applicant is asking to divide this into and create a lots which are actually, to me, the lot area, the proposed lot area is very small, which is, I'm not very much convinced to that, although I understand they have to divide the lot, but doing it in this way and creating a precedent for the other residents nearby, this will not be a good example too. So this is just a comment for that.
The precedent has already been set, Member Said, in that area. If you look at the aerial view or the location map, this is like, it has everything. It has large lots, it has small lots, it has linear lots, it has kind of squarish lots, it has all sorts of lots. So that has already been established. If your concern is with this lot area, which means, in your opinion, a severance is not desirable, this lot will remain a large lot, and someone can go in and build a big house there, okay? As opposed to if you create 2 lots, yes, indeed, it would not conform to the, or comply with the zoning bylaw regulation of 646 square meters, but yet it would give an opportunity for the same big mass to be split in 2, like in 2 houses, and on each separate lot. So think about it that way. Yes, thank you very much. This is what I was looking at. All it's an area in transition. This is not the first time we're seeing an application for Bob Mar here. We've seen this in the past. This is an area in complete transition. So, yeah, that would be my, because if you're saying that you don't agree with the lot area, you're fundamentally saying that you don't agree with the severance, because that's the only thing you could do with the severance, unless you are okay with 3 severances. But I know you're not. So what I'm trying to say is that you either the site will remain underutilized, because as we heard, but again, the market is not something that I deal with, but just putting it out there that if you build a really big house, nobody's gonna build it, nobody's gonna buy it, or the market would be difficult for that, as opposed to smaller houses or to reasonable houses, which probably is better utilization of the site, and probably it meets the intent of intensification as well, in my opinion. Not, in my opinion, it would still be modest intensification and not a severe intensification for for this location. That's my 2 cents. Okay?
Yeah, thank you,
mem-
Madam Chair.
yeah.
That's a really good observations, Madam
Mm.
Chair, and that's the point which is making our decision
Mhm.
a little bit more difficult. My second, and I hope the applicant, we didn't ask the applicant, but he must be clear about the engineering conditions as well as the
Yes.
urban forestry conditions there.
Yeah, yeah. He confirmed that he had reviewed all the
Madam
conditions and,
Chair, yes. Yep, I have reviewed them, Madam Chair, through you to Member Said. I've reviewed all those conditions and we're in agreement with them.
okay? All right, on that note, I would look for a motion. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I'm going to put forth a motion of approval for the consent application for 96 Bob Mar. And I believe we need to deal with the consent application first, and then we will move on to the variance application. I
Okay.
am going to.
Let's deal with the first one first.
Inform committee. Okay, well,
Let's deal with the consent
All right.
application. So you had started to put a motion, Member Macaulay, so carry on and complete the motion for consent application.
okay, I recommend approval of the consent application. I don't. Yes,
Subject to?
B002521, subject to conditions of engineering servicing conditions.
And urban forestry as well.
Those are the only conditions I think we have.
Urban forestry conditions as well.
All right.
And
And
any
urban
standard
forestry
conditions of consent?
Well,
Okay.
engineering servicing conditions, those are standard conditions of consent.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion for the consent application for approval, subject to all the conditions. Seconder, please. Member Said seconded the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the consent application has been approved, subject to conditions. Now, Member Macaulay, you can deal with the other 2 applications, and if you wish, you can do it in one go, because those are kind of the same.
Okay, I think the conditions of the variances, as you say, are the same. However, I am going to separate the variances, and I recommend approval, or I propose approval of the variance condition for frontage of 11.43 meters versus 15 meters. I recommend approval of the variance for a lot area of 347 square meters versus 696 square meters. I refuse the application for a coverage of 43% versus 40%, and I refuse the maximum floor area of 278 meters squared versus 204 meters squared. Now, if you wish, we can deal with the first 2, the frontage and the areas, and then we can take the last 2 and see whether the committee agrees with all of that.
No, it's part of the same application, all the variances, so we have to deal with it under one. Okay?
We can deal with it under one, but normally we will say yes to some and no to others.
Yes, so the way you've presented, we can deal with it the way you've presented, but we can't really split it to say. So the motion is to accept the first 2 and refuse the other 2. So that's what the motion is for. Okay?
All right.
So we have a motion on the floor to accept variance number 1 and variance number 2 and refuse variance number 3 and variance number 4 for both the applications. They're identical. May I have a seconder, please? There is no seconder, and the motion fails. So I need a new motion now. Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move approval of all 4 variances. I firmly believe that they meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I think personally, I think it's dangerous for us to apply subjectivity on what's an appropriate sized home. For example, with respect to coverage, I notice the difference between proposed and zoning requirement on coverage is about 11 meters squared, which is like the size of a small room. And again, it's subjective. Personally, I don't think there's any issue with a 278.16 meter squared home in this day and age. So I find all the variances in keeping with the Planning Act, and I move approval.
Okay, thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member McKay?
Yes, I second that motion to approve the 2 variance applications.
All in favor of this application? All opposed? Okay, thank you. Member McCauley opposes the application. However, the motion gets carried. Sorry, Member McCauley refuses the motion. However, the motion carries and the applications have been approved. So all 3 applications, consent, subject to conditions, and variance applications for both the lots have been approved. Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Okay. Now we are going to go to item number 29, and item number 29 is 35 Brumwell Street. And this is a consent application and with 2 associated minor variance applications for each of the 2 proposed lots. So can I please have Jim Kutsopoulos? All right, thank you. Jim, you with us?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Yes, I am.
Thank you, Jim. I'll do a name call for all the speakers registered so that you can prepare yourselves. Jennifer Guyett, Steve Guyett, Rika Cobb, and Trevor Adams. All right. Jim, we have your application for the consent. We will deal with all the 3 items together. So you have 5 minutes to speak to all the 3 applications, and your time starts now.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee and city staff. Madam Chair, we're aware that obviously the city planning department, community planning, has not provided any comments to this. However, we have been made aware of some comments from some of the surrounding neighbors. Madam Chair, we've also reviewed all of the other commenting agency department comments, and we have no issues with any of them. In this instance, Madam Chair, we have the proposed division of an existing 25-meter lot into 2 equal parts to accommodate the construction of 2 new single detached dwellings. Madam Chair, we've spent the last few days looking over the comments that I'm sure you're about to hear from some of the neighbors. And in this regard, Madam Chair, I would like to put forth, upon consideration from the applicant, some changes to the requested variances. If I may, can I just describe them very quickly for you?
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, we basically have the same ones for each lot. We have the 10 variances. So upon consideration from the applicant, we are asking to eliminate variances number 6 and number 7, which deal with the proposed building height.
Just bear with
So
me.
we-
Just
we're
bear with
asking-
me. Number
No
6?
problem,
You
no
said
problem.
number 6 and 7?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Dealing with proposed building height.
Okay.
And we're also asking to eliminate variance number 9, which is the main pedestrian entrance from to the front door. Thank you.
Mhm.
And we're also asking to eliminate variance number 10, which is the east trough setbacks.
Okay, so
So,
basically
Madam
6,
Chair,
7, 9, and 10 have been removed?
correct, for both proposed lots.
Correct, okay.
So Madam Chair, and sorry to repeat myself, we just heard that from your previous application. We have a situation in this case where, based on an analysis that we've undertaken, we've also submitted to city staff. We've got an area that, in our opinion, that does provide for varied lot sizes. We've taken a 300-meter radius, Madam Chair, from the subject lands to the north and to the south. And based on our analysis, we have existing lots that have 12 meters in frontage and going up to over 16 meters in frontage. And we're on the lower end of that, Madam Chair, but we feel that there is a variety of lot sizes and frontages in this area. And we're also proposing a dwelling size of 3,000 square feet each, 278 square meters, that in our opinion would fit in appropriately with the character of the surrounding context. And on that basis, Madam Chair, we feel that the application before you would satisfy the official plan, the zoning bylaw. It is minor in nature and it is appropriate development for the surrounding area. And Madam Chair, that's the extent of my comments on this time, and I have the owner with me, and we're happy to provide any further clarifications and then answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. While I have you, Jim, could you just quickly confirm that both the Lot 1 and Lot 2, or Part A or Part B, minor variances are similar or identical? There's slight differences in a couple, right? In a couple of variances. Yeah, there's
Are
some,
you
there's
talking
some,
about the ones eliminated, Madam Chair?
no, the ones that are still there. There's a very minor difference. So for example, for the Part 1, the public notice, the minimum lot area proposed is 458.5. Sorry, this is for Part 2. And for Part 1, it is 447. Some very minor differences. And similarly, Part 1 has 36% lot coverage and Part 2 has 35.33%.
Correct.
Okay, and then I just checked the third one, floor area 0.65. Yeah, 0.66 is for Part 1 and Part 2 has 0.65. Yeah, just some very minor differences, but more or less the same. Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, that is because of the northern lot just has just a slight jut out at the northeast corner, and I think that's where you get the nuance.
Correct, yeah. And not that it's a huge difference, but just in terms of, because we're considering all the applications together, so I just wanted to bring that to the attention so that we're not missing that little minor difference there. Okay, thank you very much.
Exactly. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's all I had. Okay, members of the committee, you have any questions for Jim? At this time, I see none. Okay, well, thank you, Jim. We'll go and speak with our speakers now, and we'll come back to you for a response. So first, okay, thank you. First speaker, Jennifer Guyot. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can certainly hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, committee, for allowing me to speak. If it's possible to put up the site plan of 35 Brumwell Street that I've submitted with my PDF that outlines the 18 neighbors surrounding the property that are in opposition. I understand the planner referred to that and perhaps it motivated some of the changes they have suggested. As I understand the process, in order to approve the application, the COA must be satisfied that the requested variances are minor and that the development is an appropriate use of the land, which maintains the intent of the zoning code and the bylaws. I want to start by noting the reason for that jut out that the planner mentioned is that the lot at 35 Brunwell is not actually wide enough for two houses. The applicant earlier purchased both properties at 33 and 35 and moved the property line over by 4 to 5 feet to create that jut out to give more width at 33, which is the previous property he sought approval for and built houses on the corner. And that's so that he could build the two oversized houses that now exist on the corner. This leaves the lot at 35 now too narrow for two houses. It does not seem appropriate that the applicant can be approved for what are now 6, what used to be 10 variances to existing bylaws when the lot size shortfall at 35 is of its own making. It is the immediate neighbor's experience with the previous building project at number 33 which has motivated the spirit opposition to this current application. I believe another speaker will address this point. Among the 10 variance requests, there are some that range from 18% to up to 32% if you put the two houses together, variances to the bylaw. Surely several requests of this magnitude cannot be interpreted as minor. Indeed, approval of any 10 or 6 separate variance requests should not be seen as minor. As it was discussed in an earlier application, there is a cumulative effect to all of these requests. It calls into question the legitimacy and purpose of the bylaws to begin with. But I want to devote my time to speaking about appropriate use of the land. I have lived in the house backing onto 35 Brumwell for over 20 years. Moreover, I grew up in this neighborhood, so the Centennial community has been my home and stomping ground for over 45 years. What particularly attracts the families to this area of the Rouge is our proximity to the waterfront, green space, the visual and sound privacy afforded by the distance between the houses, the setback from the street, and very importantly, the boulevard and household tree canopy in this area. If any of the committee members have walked this neighborhood, they will appreciate the value that we place on all of these aspects. Given that we expect Mr. April hopes to put up 2 oversized houses similar to what was erected at number 33 Brumwell, we see all of these values at serious risk. I'm sure that a forester's report was submitted in the application to sever and develop number 33, just as it is in this application for number 35. The purpose of this report is to regulate the injury and destruction of mature trees. I've submitted pictures to the committee of the properties at number 33 and number 35 prior to and during the development by Mr. April. If you can't show the pictures, I can describe them for you. The first picture shows the green space on the corner lot prior to the destruction of the original bungalow and the building of the 2 oversized homes at number 31 and 33. It clearly shows the tree canopy that is characteristic of our neighborhood, including a very large deciduous tree in the backyard of number 33 in the top corner left, which was chopped down prior to construction, and the 2 mature pines that were chopped down on June 2nd, 2021. The second picture shows a southeast view of the backyard property at number 35 Brumwell, taken just prior to Mr. April's ownership and prior to construction on the adjacent corner lot. This provides another view of the very large deciduous tree not yet in leaf in the upper right corner and the 2 mature healthy pine trees in the upper right that were chopped down on June 2nd. This neighborhood has no faith that this application to develop number 35 will have any more interest or regard for preserving the natural landscape than was demonstrated in the previous project. I must bring to your attention that no trees or any vegetation exist on number 33 property now. The last remaining very large mature trees were chopped down with or without a permit on June 2nd between the hours of 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. The houses surrounding number 35 can now look directly into each other's outdoor and indoor living spaces, severely impacting on our collective privacy and the enjoyment of our property. The neighborhood opposes allowing this kind of whole-scale destruction to occur at number 35. There are 6 established trees at my fence line with number 35 alone, and a mature tree directly in front of the current structure. Finally, I want to emphasize the important issue of sunlight to the back and side yards of the households immediately adjacent to number 35. If new buildings are made so oversized and close together to maximize real estate square footage and profit, the surrounding established homes lose the private enjoyment of their personal space, sunshine on our pools and gardens. I believe another speaker will speak to this.
Okay, thank you very much.
In summary,
Uh,
many,
I was about to say your
just one
time's
quick-
up, so just some closing remarks, please.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Summary, many of the property owners of the immediate vicinity of number 35 would like this current application refused. You've had the opportunity to review the signature pages with the map of the households in opposition. The surrounding neighbors also request some assurances that preservation of green space and the planting of trees
Mhm.
will be made a priority with enforceable accountability for any new development on 35 Brunwell.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I can just say that these applications are circulated by law to all the departments, including urban forestry. And we did receive comments from urban forestry, and they certainly have looked into all the tree loss or tree replacement, and they have provided some conditions. Should the committee approve, there will be certain conditions imposed with regards to permits to remove a tree or to replace trees as well. Okay? Just wanted to confirm that with you. Okay, so can we go to, any questions for Jennifer? I see none. Let's go to the next speaker, please. Steve Guyot. Thank you. Steve, are you with us?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, committee, for giving me an opportunity to speak. I would like to speak about two things. One was the canvassing of the neighbors in the area. Previous speaker had asked if you could pull up the map of the surrounding area, and perhaps you couldn't find it, but it would show you that there are 18 homes surrounding this property, backing onto it and up beside it. And every one of the neighbors that I spoke to spoke passionately about their concerns with the development of this property. I'll share with you a couple things that seem to be pretty consistent with their concerns. There was a trust issue that certainly came up. The speaker before had mentioned that they had thought when the properties were being put in at 31 and 33 that they would be of a reasonable size, and it really amounted to just a wall of concrete with very little yard. The gentleman that sides on the property on Yulewood, who was a new resident moving in, I did speak with him, and I believe that he'd submit. There's a statement submitted from him. He is now looking actually at a vacant lot, which we can't, a vacant home, which we can't understand. The house is vacant, no one's in it, no landscaping's been completed on it. All of the canopy's been taken away, and he's looking into concrete right now, and obviously has some concerns now that the two additional homes will create even more of an obstruction to the western view that he has. We are the same at 55 Linderwood and 53 Linderwood. We will be looking at the concrete wall going across in front. The other neighbors had similar concerns with the size of the properties going on the lot, and that obviously are aware that conveniently the lot was severed to make the first two houses fit, and now you've got an issue with not having enough space and 10 variances, which now have been chopped down to 6. I would also want to spend the remaining of my time focusing on a concern that we have with water. There are considerable waterways, underground water systems in the area of Linderwood, Yulewood, coming out of Adams Park. Our neighbor to the north, number 53, is an original homeowner in the area, and he has got some concerns along with ourselves that he spoke with the builder when the houses were being put in back 35 years ago. And they were told that there was streams underneath the properties, in particular running between our two houses. I will bring to your attention, and I put it in my submission, that after the homes were built at 31 and 33, after I believe we were 18 years in the home, we'd never had a drop of water in our basement. And my wife contacted me to tell me that there was water gushing out of fissures that were in the concrete floor in the furnace area. The water was bubbling out, thankfully going into the drain. However, the water was so extreme that it got out to the carpets out where one of our bathrooms were. We subsequently had to have somebody come in, dig up the concrete, reflow the water, and put in a sump pump. So when the houses were being built, our neighbor told us that this was brought to their attention from the builder, and some landscaping had to be done to ensure that the waters underneath would not be a problem with the new homes that were being built. And quite frankly, we know that there are weeping tiles out in the backyards. So we would like to submit that that there should at the very least be some further investigation as to whether there will be any issues if these homes were permitted, and which we don't believe they should be. And in the event that they are, we want it to go on the record because we want to be able to successfully sue the city, let alone the owners of the homes that are going in, because dealing with the water that we had to, we hope our neighbors don't have to experience what we did.
Okay, thank you. So certainly water issues are not under the purview of this committee. Any matters related to water, flooding, all those, I sympathize with you, but unfortunately, I really cannot help you with that. You must speak with the right people at the City of Toronto, in the right department, but we certainly can't help you with that. So I'm just
And
curious to know, sorry?
Can I just ask you a question? So then this is nothing that can be done, the fact that people can build homes and that we wind up having water issues?
I'm not suggesting that nothing could be done. What I'm suggesting is that this particular committee today can't help you with that. So, and I said you should contact the City of Toronto's, I guess, building department to discuss the flooding issues. As I said, I completely understand, but unfortunately, this particular committee today can't help you. So I strongly suggest you contact the building department and talk to them about this issue in the neighborhood, or to your property. Okay. Now I'm curious to know, I'm looking at the aerial map here, I'm looking at the lot fabric actually. And what I see is that should this consent go ahead, the two lots that would be created would be very similar in fabric along Linderwood. And I believe you back onto Linderwood, you're one of the owners just behind this property. So the new lots would be more or less the same configuration as the lots on Linderwood. So if anything, it sort of completes the fabric of that area. Okay? That's what I wanted to bring up. So as you can see on the screen, except for that little kink there, if you draw a straight line through it, it roughly starts to follow, well, not roughly, but it actually starts to follow the lot fabric on both sides of the streets, on facing Brumwell as well as Linderwood. So this would not be an unusual lot configuration. And yes, as you can see, it goes all, so that basically it completes the whole block if that lot is created.
No, but that would be with giving them their variances to be able to put those properties on. It'd be
Okay.
oversized for the area.
That's a separate issue. I'm talking about the consent. Oversizing or a larger house is a separate issue. Those are related to the actual houses that will be built. But in terms of the consent, as you can see, it'll follow sort of the same line, which is, I believe, between your property and your neighbor's property, 53 Linderwood. So that's just, I wanted you to kind of see that, so that the residents in general have an understanding of the consent. Should the committee approve it, that's what the fabric would look like. House size of the house, all those are separate issues, and that's the minor variance application that is also part of this application. Okay? Okay, thank you very much, Steve, for your time. I appreciate that. I'm going to go and speak to the next neighbor, Rika Cobb.
I'm the owner of 44 Brumwell. Thank you for reading my letter and allowing me to voice my opposition to these applications. For a variance to be considered minor, it should not permanently inconvenience or have significant impact on neighboring lots. Through their statements, my neighbors have expressed or will express the negative impacts to their properties. Please bear in mind that the applicant had a few months to collect letters of support and was only able to collect 3. With 2.5 weeks notice, we were able to collect 6 times as many. I have no doubt that we would have collected many more had we the same amount of time. Our concerns are valid and should be seriously considered. The financial enrichment of the applicant should not come at a cost for the neighbors. These variances are not numerically minor. The applicant proposes to build dwellings with a floor area 32% greater than permitted by the existing bylaw on lots that are 19.7% smaller than required by the existing bylaw. Along with the 15.7% reduction requested in the minimum frontage, the proposed development would result in two very large homes on two very small lots. The cumulative effect is significant. The proposed development does not respect and reinforce the neighborhood character in terms of prevailing massing, scale, density, building setback, and lot size. Therefore, the proposed development does not maintain the general purpose and intent of the official plan or the city zoning bylaw. The Bromwell Street cul-de-sac includes Bromwell Street, Linderwood Drive, Carina Road, Yulwood Gate, and Laura Ellis Court. Detached dwellings on lots with frontages of 15 meters or greater is the character of the Bromwell Street cul-de-sac. I noticed that there was no lot study in the supporting documentation. Should a lot study have been provided, it would indicate that 127 of the 133 lots have a frontage of 15 meters or greater. Of the other 6 lots, 5 of them form the cul-de-sac circle on Linderwood Drive. It is not unusual for this to occur in a circle. The 6th lot, which is 12 Bromwell, has a frontage slightly less than 15 meters and a lot area that is over 2.5 times larger than the applicant's proposed lots. The proposed frontage that would result from a severance is not consistent with the prevailing frontage and would set an undesirable precedent. The official plan indicates that if there is a difference between the characteristics of the broader context or neighborhood and the immediate context, which are the properties that face the same street as the proposed development in the same block and the block opposite the proposed development, should be given greater relevance. The decision notice to sever 33 Bromwell was included in the application file as past decisions in supporting documentation. Please note that the very same applicant was responsible for the severance and development of 33 Bromwell into 2 lots. I would like to mention that in a hot real estate market, the applicant appears to be having a difficult time selling the finished development. With one house apparently transferred to a relative, the other remains vacant. I believe this is due to the small lot areas and backyards. These lots are simply out of character and not what a buyer expects in this neighborhood. As the proposed lot areas are even smaller than those created by the 33 Bromwell severance, it appears that the applicant's intention is to create another undesirable development with more empty houses and undesirable lots. Further, in the case of 33 Bromwell, I would like to point out that in order to create 2 lots, each with minimum frontage of 15 meters, the applicant bought 35 Bromwell and conveyed land to the 33 Bromwell lot. The applicant knew then and knows now that the minimum frontage of 15 meters is a principal characteristic of the neighborhood that must be maintained. Also, Madam Chairman, I wanted to point out that the lot at
Rika, before you
35
begin, I just want to caution you, your time's up, so just a closing remark,
Mhm.
please.
Okay. The lot at 35 Bromwell is not exactly what you see on the map
40,
because
which
it
one?
doesn't include the map, the Toronto map that
Yeah,
was up
yeah, which
just
one,
previously.
which one did you say, 44?
Sorry, at 35
35, okay.
Bromwell. Yes, the lot is not that size and shape because that does not take into account the fact that 33 had been severed and the land conveyed. So when you say that just to split it down the middle
Mm.
makes it equal to
Mm.
what is at the neighborhood, it does not, because the lot is actually smaller than what you see on the map. So
Correct,
I
with,
just
with
wanted
that
to
jut
point
out,
that out.
yeah, with that
In,
jutting
in,
out, right, yeah.
in conclusion, the variants should not be considered minor as they do not satisfy any of the 4 tests. I therefore respectfully ask that the application for minor variances and consent to sever be refused. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Rika. Yes, I thank you for flagging that. For that little sort of southerly jut out, my reference is more to, was sort of a line drawn in the middle, and then it just sort of starts to complete the fabric. But your point is noted. That little jut out is a little, makes it a little different. Okay, now we go to our next speaker, Trevor Adams. Perfect, thank you. Trevor, you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So Trevor, thank you for taking the time. You have 5 minutes, but I would really encourage you to add any new comments or concerns. If you've heard from your fellow residents, you may not need to repeat those, please. Thank you.
All right. Well, good afternoon, or more accurately, good evening, members of the Committee of Adjustment. My name is Trevor Adams, and I reside at 39 Cromwell Street, which is directly north and besides the proposed structure. I'm extremely concerned about the submission to overturn the existing bylaws to accommodate 2 oversized homes on an already previously severed lot. Already previously severed, which I think that was discussed earlier. The lot in question was recently severed by the applicant to build 2 other residential structures, number 33 and 31. This left the existing lot in question smaller than its original size. My specific concerns regarding this request for variances are in respect to the placement and scale of the proposed structures. These homes will encroach on my property line and will significantly affect the present look, feel, and character of the immediate area. The majority of the existing homes on this side of Bromwell are aligned. The requested variances are significant and will set these 2 new homes forward and closer to the street. Now, if I understand correctly, variance number 6 has been withdrawn, but I would still like to reiterate that the maximum dwelling height of 9 meters is going to exceed, since the majority of the homes on this part of Bromwell are single-story bungalows or back splits. Now, the increased depth of the proposed home at 35 will detrimentally affect the amount of sunlight as well as my privacy that I currently enjoy on this side of my home. I have a sunroom and a hot tub located on this side of the yard, so therefore I have a privacy fence that I mounted into a concrete retaining wall that is on my property, which I own. I built it, I paid for it, and I maintain it. I'm concerned that building this close to my property line will undoubtedly cause damage to my fence and diminish my privacy overall. From my understanding, bricklayers, arc scaffolding, covering 3 or 5 foot sections, and the proposed proximity of the new wall to my fence will not allow for this type of setup very easily. Sorry about this. I trust you all, as homeowners, can understand and sympathize with my concerns. I've enjoyed my home for over 35 years and do not want to see the charm and wonderful character of Bromwell destroyed a lot at a time. I hope that you as a committee can see that these multiple unreasonable variances need to be denied and that you reject the applicant's request to alter the wonderful neighborhood that I call home. Thank you so much for allowing me this chance to express my concerns, and here ends my submission.
Thank you, Trevor. I just have a question, and I think I should have asked all the others as well, but if you look at the variances, I'm just trying to analyze all these variances as I'm also hearing all the evidence from all the residents. The lot coverage that's permitted is 33%. The ask is for 35.33%. So in your opinion, a 2.33% increase in lot coverage is substantial?
When you look look at the size of the homes in comparison to the other homes
It's not about the
on
size
this
of the
section of
home.
street.
So we're talking about, so there's two things here. One is the existing houses on the street, and I don't disagree that there's a character in that area. I don't disagree. I understand that.
Thank you.
Single-story bungalows from the 60s and the 70s, I totally see that.
And the back splits.
Right? And then the zoning bylaw permits certain things as of right today. Even yourself, you have the right to build a two-story and do a 33% lot coverage and all the other regulations. In this particular instance, the lot coverage increase is for 35.33%, which is 2.33% higher than what's permitted. And I'm just gauging your opinion. In your opinion, is this significant? 2% increase, 2.33% increase.
On paper, it may be insignificant, but an actual visualization, it's a sizable increase.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to hear your opinion on that. And that's about it. Thank you very much. Okay. And members of the committee, any questions for Trevor? Okay, I see none. All right. I think that was the last speaker registered to speak with us. So we're going to go back to Jim Kotsopoulos. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, there's quite a few comments. I just wanted to hone in on a couple of them, Madam Chair, just to give an overall at the end from Jennifer and Steve. They mentioned something about some destruction of trees on number 33 and 31. That has nothing to do, Madam Chair, with the applicant for this property. There are new homeowners on those lands. So it's my understanding that whatever happened on those regarding those trees were done so by the current owners of those two properties or that property. There was further comments about number 55 and 53 Linwood about shadowing and trees that are butting the mutual rear lot line. Madam Chair, as we said earlier, we are going to fully comply with a building height of 9 meters in terms of any shadowing or any privacy issues. The rear yard setback, Madam Chair, we're not asking for any variances, and actually both of them are in excess of 10 meters. So we will be able to obviously address any issues regarding any existing trees along the mutual rear lot lines. And then, Madam Chair, overall, then we really, it goes back to our initial set of comments. We have a 25-meter wide lot here. We feel that the more optimal use of this property is to subdivide it into 2 equal parts that are currently proposing approximately 3,000 square foot dwellings, which in our opinion, Madam Chair, with the fact that we will be complying with the building height and we have a slight coverage increase, we feel that we will be able to obviously create appropriately sized dwelling units for the surrounding context. So, Madam Chair, overall, we feel, again, there's a variety, although, as one of the speakers did say, the predominance is a 15-meter lot. The 12.65, along with about 20 other properties, Madam Chair, in that area, are in that range. So we feel, again, that does provide for a variety of lot sizes, and the 12.65 meter frontages, along with the appropriately designed dwellings, in our opinion, provide compliance with the surrounding context of the area, reinforce the existing character, and do really represent a modest intensification within this area. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jim. I have a question. This is related to variance number 4, and it's for the proposed floor area. I'm sort of a number person here. So 0.66 times the lot area. What does that translate into proposed floor area? As opposed to 0.5.
Madam Chair, thank you. We're just trying to calculate it here. So 0.5 The lot area is 458. Yeah, 458.5. Madam Chair, sorry, we're just trying to
Yeah, no
calculate.
problem. Sorry to put you on the spot like this.
So 0.5 would be, she wants to know the difference. So 229 would be a 0.5, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Versus the 0.65, 458.5. So 229, yeah, 0.65. So 302, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, so this is for lot 2, and it's approximately the same for lot 1. So just,
It's approximately the same.
yeah,
give
it's
or take.
approximately the same. So in terms of translating it, the floor area into GFA, I would say 229 is what's permitted by the bylaw, and what's being proposed is 302 square meters. Okay, thank you very much.
Although technically, we are showing, Madam Chair, just to really get technical here, we are showing a GFA of 299. So slightly less than the 302.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, helps me visualize the massing, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so over to the committee members. Any questions for Jim? Okay, I see none. All right, thank you, Jim, and thanks everyone for taking the time to speak with us. I take the matter into committee now. Committee members, we have 3 applications we dealt with altogether, consent and 2 minor variance application in terms of decision-making. Similar to what we did for the past one, we'll deal with the consent first, and then we could deal with the 2 variance applications together, if the committee wants to go that way. Any comment? Okay, no comment. If there are no comments or questions, can I please have a motion? And in terms of the conditions, of course, there are conditions of urban forestry and ECS conditions and, oh, sorry, just urban forestry? Okay, thank you. There's no ECS conditions. Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, addressing the consent, I'm in full agreement with the observations that you made earlier in the consideration discussion here. I think I'm confident that the proposed lots are very much in keeping with the fabric of the lot areas and frontages in the area. And I would point out that I think the proposed 12.65 meter frontage is much closer to the 15 meters required by the bylaw than is the current 25.3 meters. So I think splitting this lot into 2 leaves lots that are much more consistent with the neighboring fabric. As a result, I am prepared to move approval of the consent, subject to the standard conditions of consent and urban forestry conditions 2 and 3 times 2.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion on the floor to approve. May I have a seconder, please? This is the consent application. The seconder, please. Member McKay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay, the motion has been opposed by Member Macaulay and Member Said. However, the motion's carried, so the application for consent has been approved. Now, can I have a motion on the 2 associated minor variance applications, please? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair. Again, by moving the consent, I'm obviously supportive of variances 1 and 2 regarding frontage and lot area. With respect to the balance of the requested variances, I don't find the requested lot coverage to be hugely impactful relative to what's permitted, nor do I find the permitted floor area to be hugely impactful. the front yard setback adjustment, again, I don't believe is significant. Variances 6, 7, and 9 have been omitted.
Mhm. Yes, so six,
So I
seven,
move
6, 7, 9, and 10 have been omitted.
6, 7, 9, and 10. Okay, so with respect to variances requested, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8,
Mm-hmm.
I move approval.
For, Yeah, approve as amended. Okay.
Yes,
Okay, and this is for both the applications.
for both, yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have a
29
motion on the
B and
floor to approve both the applications as amended, no conditions, all in favor? Oh, sorry, seconder, please. Member McKay? Okay, Member McKay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay, so Member McCauley and Member Said oppose the motion. The motion's carried. The applications for minor variances have been approved. Thank you. That brings us to the last item on the agenda for today, and this is item number 30. Item number 30 is 10 Pen Air Street. Pen Air Street? Yasu Somalingam. Thank you. Yasu, you're with
Hi,
us?
yes, Madam Chair. My name is Yaso Somalingam. I'm the authorized agent on this application.
Okay, thank you, Yasu. And just so that I can put myself in place here, so we have your consent application for 10 Pinner Street and the associated minor variance applications for the two lots or the two parts that are being proposed through the consent application. Okay, so we will be dealing with all the three items together, the three applications together, so you have 5 minutes. So please go ahead.
Okay, Madam Chair, this conversion of this size lots being severed into two, it's been accepted by the Committee of Adjustment in the past, and it's been developing in this neighborhood for quite a long time period. My client would like to do this application, and he would like to sever that into two lots, and there are certain number of variants, especially the height variances, are triggering because of the slope of the land at the front, which is about from one side to other side, it's about 2 feet difference in the grade variant, grade level. However, the height variance meets the old city bylaw, which is item number 12. We don't need that item number 12. I can scrap that thing, but it's only about 0.1 meter for one of the lots. So item number 12 is not required. But,
Hang on, Yasu, hang on. Let me just pull it. So you're talking about the minor variance applications for, and variance number, which variance did you say?
Number 2. Sorry,
Number
12.
Number 12?
Yeah, that's the old zoning bylaw. We are just,
There's
I
no
let it
12.
be there. Sorry, the item number, yeah. Item number 6.
Okay, so let me get it straight. This is for part 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so part 1, you're removing the height variance, variance number 6. This is for part 1. What about part
It's
2?
only for part 1. Yes, part 2, it's complies because of the
Okay.
height level.
Okay, all right. So just so everyone can get it right, for part 1, item 30B, variance number 6 is being removed.
And we also changed the layout of the site plan. We got the concern from the urban forestry about saving the trees. So we flipped the site plan, both of the site plans, such a way that to save the trees at the front and the backyard. That revised drawings was sent already to the committee.
Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, so can I please have the committee members back? Thank you.
Through the chair, I just want to clarify something.
Sure.
Just in terms of the urban forestry, there were two urban forestry memos provided. Just for a point of clarification, the urban forestry memo that we have confirmed with urban forestry today that the urban forestry memo dated, it's dated November 16th, I believe.
November 16th?
Which is in your package, which is approving it subject, or recommending approval subjects to conditions 1, 2, and 3. That is the memo that should be considered. The more recent memo should not, has been superseded. Just a point of clarification.
Okay. So members of the committee, I think what Colin was referring to was that table, summary table in which the conditions were not reflected. So we've been asked to look at our packages, and there's an urban forestry staff memo from November 16th, and that includes 3 conditions of approval, condition 1, 2, and 3, to be considered for inclusion in our decision should the committee approve it. Okay, thank you very much. And Yasu, you're aware of those conditions from urban forestry?
Yes, Madam Chair, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all
Madam.
right. Thank you, Katrine. Yeah, all these conditions are added and are included. Okay, so on that note, members of the committee, if you have no questions, then or are there any questions? There aren't any, okay. I'll proceed with Lindsay Allen and Lucia Allen. They're both together and as our speakers.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. I'm Linz Allen. My wife is in a meeting, so she won't be able to join us. But I'm at 6 Panera Street. That's 2 doors down. I've been here for 11 years, which makes me very much a baby in this neighborhood. I'd like to say I've no problem with many of the variances that are being applied for. I'm happy to see progress in the neighborhood. The one thing that's especially concerning to me is number 5. So I see that number 6 was just removed, which speaks to the height of the dwelling, but number 5 also speaks to the height of the dwelling regarding specifically a flat roof design, which has a much lower maximum height. So the proposed dwelling is a 9.01 meter height, whereas the maximum for a flat roof dwelling is 7.2. So it's a very significant difference. And I think that the overall feel of the neighborhood would be negatively impacted by a significantly taller flat roof dwelling.
So that is. Sorry, I didn't quite get the question. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, well, I wasn't making a question. It wasn't a question. It was a statement that the maximum height permitted is 7.2 meters.
That is correct.
And so it's almost a 2 meter difference that they're seeking. So I don't call that a minor variance.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, is there anything else you would like to add?
That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. So going back to Yasu.
There are two bylaws are dealing with the roof heights. One for the traditional roof, there's no problem in the roofing height with the new bylaw and the old bylaw. But when it comes to a flat roof, it's 7.2 is permitted. He's correct. And in one of the lot, we are asking for 8.72, which is about 1.52 higher than the approved height. And the other one is we are seeking 9.01, which is slightly higher, about 1 foot higher difference. So as I said, because of the lot difference, the elevation difference from one side to the other side is about 2 feet, which is triggering these 2 different variances on these heights. As far as we are concerned on the height variance on a flat roof, because the zoning is written such a way that it's complies to a regular wider looking houses in any of these developments. But when we come to a development where garage and the 2-floor above, and we have a challenge in meeting this height variance for the new bylaw, which is triggering on it. As you said, that the item number 6, which is a old bylaw, which we are only about 0.01 meter away, so we are going to some of the manage that to cover it. So it is, yes, it's in the number wise, it looks a big difference on the on paper, but in reality, it is the nature of height variance requirements for when we go with a 2-story on top of the garage structure for a modern flat roof structure, which has been the challenge for most of the most of the designs which we come for committee adjustments.
Okay, all right, thank you. Member, sorry, staff, you have a comment?
Through the chair, you may wish to confirm with the applicant. As we understand it, the applicant is eliminating variance number 6 on part 1. I'm wondering, you may wish to ask the applicant whether that also impacts variance number 5 in terms of the requested height. If the requested height is going down to 9 meters for variance 6, does that also impact the requested height for variance number 5 to 9.0 meters? It's just a question to the applicant.
Thank you. That's a fair question. So Yasu, as you heard.
Yes, he is correct. So that will be changed to from 9.01 to 9 meters. He's correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. So that clarifies. So variance number 5 is modified to 9 meters and not 9.01. Okay. Thank you. Members of the committee? Katrine, can I see them? Thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for the applicant? Any questions? I see none. All right, Yasu, thank you for your time. Thank you, all the speakers who came to speak with us. If there are no, I'll take the matter into committee now. Any comments? Any deliberations? If there aren't any, can I please have a motion for both, for the consent, and then you could deal with the 2 variance applications together? All 3 separate? Okay. Okay, we can do that as well. So the suggestion from staff is that we, in terms of the motions, we deal with each independent application because of the amendments and whatnot. So the first one, consent application. Creation of 2 lots. Member Said.
Actually, this is a comment. I raised my hand. Maybe you haven't seen me.
Okay.
So just a comment before I go to the motion, because I would like to other members, if they have their opinion. Madam Chair, this consent application, again, it's creating the lots. And when I look at the lot frontage and lot coverage, I think these are the lots which are small. So I don't feel satisfied and fully convinced with the consent application by itself.
With the consent application? Okay, all right.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we have, so that was a comment. And anybody else wants to chime in? Okay, I see none. All right, if there is no further comment, then can I please have a motion on the consent application? Member Said, please go ahead. Excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I mentioned in my comments, I am not convinced with this consent application. It's asking 2 lots to be created which are deficient, both in terms of the frontage and the coverage, lot cover. So with that, I move the motion for refusal of the consent application.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to refuse the consent application for 10 Penair Street. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay seconds. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I'll second the motion.
All
I
right.
too looked at these lots and I've read some of the letters where we recently refused a similar application on number 14 for 2 smaller lots.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion, and the motion has been seconded by Member Macaulay to refuse the application. All in favor of this motion? Okay, so the application is refused. It was unanimous refusal, the applicants.
Did you vote,
No,
Chair?
no, I did
Okay.
not. So the application has been refused. Thank you. All right. So which means that there's no need to do, to deal with the variance applications because the consent has failed. Okay, so the application's denied. That brings us to the end of the agenda. And we are, I think that's it in terms of other business.
Through the chair, there are just on the agenda, just as information, and it's on the
Agenda page, yeah.
yes,
So
the
there's no
agenda
other
materials.
business, yeah.
There was a TLAB order that was a decision order issued for Meadowvale Avenue. Actually, I believe is that address correct, Katrine? Yeah, it's actually, just to clarify, it's 435 Meadowvale Avenue, not 35 Meadowvale. And the other point is that when this agenda was created, we hadn't confirmed the 2022 schedule. Since then, we have confirmed our 2020 Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearing schedule, and the next hearing will be January 13th, a virtual public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the schedule for 2022 that was sent to us for our review? Okay, I guess we're all in agreement, and January 13 is the next hearing date. All right. That's it. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. Member McKay?
Sure, I was just wishing everyone some happy holidays now, and we'll talk in the new year.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Happy holidays to everyone as well. Thank you,
Don't
Dawn.
eat too much.
Okay, all right. Can I have a motion to adjourn? We can stick around and do our greetings, but I need a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I would move that we adjourn this meeting.
Okay, seconder? We have seconders. All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our last hearing for 2021. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the great teamwork. Appreciate all your hard work and efforts. Dawn, thank you for helping us out. See you in the next year, everyone.
Always my pleasure.
Thank you, Dawn. Happy New Year to everyone. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.